Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Markets to Watch from Smack the Markets for week commencing the 10th of September. Now, this week we've got quite a bit of economic news to keep the markets interested. We've got the UK and European interest rate decisions and employment numbers, and of course that's on top of the continuing trade discussions going on between the US and China and potential sort of trade tariffs that keep rising there. So let's take a look at some of the markets here that we're going to be focusing on in the trading room. The first one here is Euro against the Aussie. Now, the Australian dollar and the Kiwi have been particularly weak markets for the past few weeks, actually, and a lot of those markets are now looking rather overstretched and overextended. One here that isn't quite so stretched as the others is Euro against the Aussie. And this market is in a well-structured long trend, and if we take a look at the weekly chart, has already broken out of key structure levels that we can see here on the higher time frames. So it's broken above the 1.6 level here, sort of quite comfortably over the past couple of weeks, and the market's still looking sort of bullish at this moment in time. If we come down to the sort of daily chart and the mid time frames, we can see that there's just very well structured trends here on these markets, where the market's just pulling back into the moving averages, picking up momentum, and the trend continuing. And at the moment, there doesn't look to be any sort of evidence of this strength in the euro against the Aussie sort of weakening. So what we're looking for is sort of continued sort of pullbacks into the moving averages, looking at positions to be able to get sort of tight positions and to be able to get positions to trade the market long. You can see that there was a trade that we had here last week when the market did exactly that, and that's the sort of structure that I'm looking for to get positioned again to be able to continue trading this market long. Okay, so let's come and have a look at the next one. Now, I like to take a look at three different types of asset classes here on the Markets to Watch newsletters, and the next one we'll take a look at an index, and my favorite is the Nasdaq. So taking a look at the Nasdaq here, we can see that all the index markets, actually, the US index markets, have had quite a retracement over the past week, and the Nasdaq being the one that has retraced the furthest. This just means that here on the sort of weekly chart, the market is now just sort of pulled back into the moving averages into an already very well structured long trend. So what I'm looking for here is to see if the market will actually sort of like turn around at this point. There's certainly a bit of evidence here that could see that this could be an area where the market may find support. You know, not to mention where the market is on the weekly chart, but if we come and have a look at the daily, the market's, it's pulled beyond the moving averages, but it's still within the structure of the trend. So this trend here on the daily is still within a long trend. We're still just putting in, at this moment, a higher low. If we come down to the sort of 4-hour chart, we can see on the 4-hour and that there is a structure level here around 7,400, and the market sort of tested this multiple times before. And looking at the sort of current price action, we can see that the market really didn't want to sort of hang around that sort of level last week. So we're getting a bit of bullish action starting to come back into the markets at the moment today. Now, it's very early days at the moment, but if we come through to the lower time frames, we can see that we've got very sort of tight range here on the markets. And we've also got generally the structure here of an uptrend forming. So we've got higher highs, higher lows. You know, on the moving averages here, they're all in the right order on the 15-minute time frame. And we've got agreement here with our indicators. So what I'm looking for here is to see if this is if there are early entry opportunities to be able to sort of get positioned to see if these markets are going to turn around. If we're in for another long leg here on the Nasdaq, there's at this moment in time is looking like there's some opportunities for fairly tight positions to look for long opportunities. And of course, you know, if this trend does continue, well, on the daily and the weekly time frames, there's certainly quite a distance for this market to go before it makes a new high. So the preference out of all three of the index markets for me to focus on this week is the NASDAQ for those reasons. The next market, I want to focus on a commodity. Now, the best commodity that I'm seeing at the moment here is gold. We were focusing on gold in the trading room last week. And the real reasons behind this is that out of the precious metals, I think that gold has got the sort of cleanest price action at this moment in time. It's also, when we look at the structure here on the daily and the weekly timeframes, it's also sort of like pulled back to a sort of, it's pulled back within the moving averages. It's halfway down, or maybe not even halfway through its next leg of the trend. So, we've had the extreme low down here. The market's pulled back into key resistance, back into the moving averages, and now we're starting to move down again. Now, of course, the markets don't always move in straight lines, and we can see on the lower time frames here that there's certainly been some sort of sideways consolidation. But what I'm looking for is to see whether the market can actually break a new low. And if it does, then I'm looking for opportunities to be able to get positioned to trade the market down within this sort of continuation of this downtrend down towards these old lows and beyond. If we open this up on the daily chart and just sort of zoom up on this, we can see that we've had a lower high here that was also an area of resistance. If we come down and mark in the next lower high, we can see the next lower high is here. So we've had a lower high, a high, low, lower high. If the market sort of breaks down below the previous lows and the current lows, if it breaks down any further, it's going to be making a new lower low. That could be the start of a new downtrend that could see us for a continuation of this weekly downtrend down towards these old lows again. That's the sort of move that I'm looking for here on gold. So keeping a close eye on the sort of 4-hour charts to see whether these lower levels that we can see get broken, and we can get some sort of trend structure to the short side. So those are the markets that some of the markets that we're keeping a close eye on in the trading room. I certainly hope it helps, and look forward to speaking to you next time. Bye for now.